Welcome to Solo Kapoor's podcast. Happy New Year, everyone. And I promised to bring a big celebrity for my 50th episode, and here I am. Here I am with one of my favorite directors from South India, probably my favorite director from Kannada movie. I'm not sure how he does with compliments. Thank you very much, Pawan Kumar sir, for joining this podcast. Absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you for inviting, and I'm looking forward to all the conversations.
In case you're living in a cave, Pawan Kumar sir is the director of the movie Lucia, U-Turn, Life is Steno, these three Kannada movies. He also directed the Layla series for the Netflix. For Telugu folks, he's directing a science fiction web series, Kudi Edamaite. Not sure how much we can reveal about that, how much sir is allowed to reveal about that. But in case you were living in a cave, that's the information that I have for you. Now, in this podcast, what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring out the inner film geek of Pawan Kumar sir and have a glimpse at the list of movies and the filmmakers that have influenced him, his style of filmmaking, his writing, and any sort of influence that has had on his mind over the years and what shaped him into the filmmaker that he has become. And without further ado, sir, here's the thing that I was thinking when we were doing this podcast. How much of your movie watching time do you owe to torrents? Because coming from the 2000s era, back in the day, without any
Mhm.
Netflix, without any YouTube, as much as we hate piracy, don't you think we secretly thank torrent?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I can say is that my hands are clean. So because I have OCD issues, like I
Mm,
want things to be very perfect. My laptop had to be very clean. There shouldn't be any viruses in it. So I somehow never was so used to using torrents myself.
mm,
I somehow didn't trust it much. I knew that when you try to download something, there could be, issues with your, I mean, you can download some malware.
mm,
And there were also, for some reason, I think, at least for that period, I was not with a great internet connection that I could download movies and all that. So I was on the dial-up for a long time. And so I never got myself to torrents, but I knew friends who would do it. So I always used to, get a hard drive and they would give me their collections. So thankfully, I can say that I didn't ever download a film from a torrent, but somebody else did for me. Yeah.
wow. That is a very diplomatic way of watching the movies back in the day. Uh, but you all have these. Were you the cool movie friend in your friend circle, or you had other cool movie friends? Like, for example, I was not the cool movie geek in my friend circle. It was some other friends who introduced me to some great stuff from where I started exploring myself. What was your thing like back in the day when you were young? Because you must have grown up over a period of time. I believe you grew up in Andhra Pradesh, bit in Karnataka. You must have grown up watching the traditional cinema that everyone in the family watches. But when did this foreign when did the introduction of foreign cinema happen to you back in the day?
Okay, so first I grew up in Karnataka. I was only born in Andhra Pradesh
Right.
because my mom is from here. So I am a Kannadiga. I've grown up, brought up in Bangalore.
Hmm.
That's one. Two, I didn't have a sort of a friend circle which was constant. It kept changing a lot.
Hmm.
School was different, and my pre-university was different, engineering was different. Then I got into theater. So I kept shuffling groups.
Hmm.
I mean, when I look back or when somebody says, what is your group and were you like your question, I would say I never had that sort of like a set kind of friends um, gang.
Hmm.
It's been so changed and everyone's moved on after, I move on to another group. So, in terms of movies, I was never so inclined. Like everyone else, I used to watch popular movies,
Hmm.
movies on television. You would just know of the bigger stars, and I was not really exposed to any kind of world cinema at all. My parents would tell me about these award-winning films that used to come on TV on Sunday afternoons. So, and something that I think most of the people from my generation would know is that if a film is subtitled, it means it's award-winning film, and if it's so that's how you would know that it's Sunday 3 o'clock. These and that would come in the alphabetical order, Assami, Bengali, and
Yes.
stuff like that. So that's the most of art or non-commercial cinema that I
Hmm.
was ever exposed to.
Hmm.
My first international world cinema that I think I got to watch on a big screen and was Life is Beautiful,
Mm.
the Italian film which won the Oscar for best movie, best foreign film.
Foreign film,
I
yeah.
think back in 2000. So I was in a theater group. That was the first time I was opening up to a newer world. Other than college friends, other than school friends, there was a different gang that I was hanging out with, who are all much much older than me. So then they all on a Sunday discussed. I was just 19, I guess, and they were all much older. And they said there is this great film, and we are all going. And I just wanted to be with them
Mm.
because they're just theater guys. So I went with them, but I didn't expect much. I was just cursing myself because I'm like, what is this stupid thing that people watch where you don't even understand the language and you have to read subtitles on the big screen? That was something I was not used to either, because subtitles were more for television
Yes.
after the hour. So for me, I think maybe it's true that that would be the first film where I saw something with subtitles
Mm.
on the big screen. But it was such a amazing experience, so for me, that first for the first 30 minutes I couldn't follow much
Mm.
because it was too quick for me to be able to, though it's a very simple film, but slowly it took me in so well that I then recommended my parents to watch it. And then finally, when I got a PC in my house, I managed to get a CD of it and keep a copy of it on my hard drive. So I would say that's where the journey started of
Mm.
watching some films which are not commercially successful or which are not popular genre films.
Right. How did your exploration like train go? What was the order? Like, for example, if I give my example, I first discovered like Spielberg, and then I discovered Scorsese, then I discovered Coppola, then Tarantino, then and so on. So you said that Life is Beautiful, right? From there, where did you go? What were the other things that you started
No, of
exploring?
course, we had seen the popular ones. We had
Mm.
seen Jurassic Park. We all
Mm.
had seen Titanic.
Yeah.
So those films we all had seen, but we hadn't
Mm.
really explored
Mm.
their other side to it.
Mm.
Like Schindler's List, I didn't know about it, though it was released and made at the same time as Jurassic Park,
Right.
but I didn't know about it, and I didn't know about which was the other film, like Saving Private Ryan. Like
Mm.
everyone had, but my like that's not something that we were exposed to or taken to a
Right.
theater and then shown that kind of a film.
Mm.
So I would say I still, after though I did watch Life is Beautiful, but I didn't get to viewing much movies. I was so much into theater that I never
Mm.
thought movies would be something that I'd be interested in. It never really caught me at that time. I'm
Mm.
talking about year 2000, 2001, and 2.
Mm.
And once I got into engineering is when you then go with these new gang of friends and then you watch movie nights, and that won't be popular Hindi films, but they were like Sixth Sense was something that I saw later, and Beautiful Mind is something that I
Mm.
saw on the theater, American Beauty. So these were some early good films that I got to see on the big screen thanks to the other friends who were aware of it. So slowly the mind started opening up to, the 5 song formula is not the only kind of film. And other than a very world cinema and a very Indian commercial cinema, there's something else as well. So that,
Mm.
other than a Titanic and a Jurassic Park, I would say Beautiful Mind was a different experience altogether.
Right.
A Sixth Sense was a different experience. So it started there, and because I was doing theater and I was attending a lot of theater workshops and theater festivals, there used to be a lot of talk about Kurosawa. So I
Mm.
ended up getting, because he is strongly influenced with Shakespeare and Macbeth and King Lear, and I was looking at the films only to know about the plays. I never really looked at his films as films.
Right.
So there used to be a screening of what is Macbeth called in Kurosawa? Should have, I forgot. Kurosawa made Macbeth, right? It's called something else. Uh, Throne of Blood.
Okay.
Throne of Blood. Yeah. So that is a very popular film, and so I would want to see how Macbeth was adapted to screen.
Mm.
and King Lear. How did he adapt King Lear to screen? And that's when I slowly started realizing the strength of the medium
Mm.
of cinema. And I have a very interesting incident. So then, because I was so inclined in theater, so friends all would start talking about film festivals. So the Bangalore has a Bangalore Film Festival
Yes.
chapter, which happens every once a year. So I think I had just quit college in about year 2002, and that's when the now that I've quit college and I've said I'm going to dedicate my life to theater and stuff. So
Exactly when software was booming in Bangalore.
yeah, exactly that time, So, and so I went to the film festival, and that's when I pushed myself to see what world cinema is.
Mm.
So I ended up seeing some random, you would see some film made in some small European country, and then you would see something made in Africa, something made in Argentina. So I sat through three, four films, and I was watching some extreme films. There was
Mm.
film which was heavily about homosexuality, and for me it was like, whoa, too much to digest at that point, because it's so new to see
Mm.
something like that on the big screen.
Right.
But what is amazing is it's been 18 years, 18, 19 years now, but I have memories of some shots. I have memories of a character expressing pain.
Mm.
I have memories of watching that, and that's when I figured that these movies are masterpieces not because of how quickly they get you, but for how long they get you. It's
Mm.
been, I don't even know the name of the film, but I remember some shots. I remember how the character felt. I think that's when I slowly started understanding
Mm.
that filmmaking has its own skill set, and it's not exactly what we hear or read on our gossip newspaper
Right.
columns and everything.
And we, being from the country that we are, we have the habit of following the filmography of an actor, right? Of a hero, right? Who was your first director that got you curious, to explore his entire filmography? Who was your first director crush in that sense?
Spielberg was one. I
Mm.
think it started as very. I remember while I started doing more theater, I started watching more and more Spielberg's work.
Mm.
I would dig into all his old films, and when I saw Schindler's, it was like, uh, I mean, then I met with some of this, film. What do you call them? The traditional film appreciation kind of, and they were not really. When I said, "Wow, Schindler's List must be the best film ever made,"
Mm.
they were laughing. They're like, "Oh, you haven't seen world cinema then." And I mean, all said and done today, looking back, I would say Schindler's List still moves me, and it's still a
Yes.
very good film for me. It's one of the
Yes.
best films for me, no matter how much world cinema I ended up seeing later.
Mm.
For me, Spielberg was portraying great art and yet reaching out in a language that I would understand.
Mm.
It wasn't too abstract, it wasn't too arty, it wasn't too trying to be too intellectual. He was showing characters which you could understand, connect to, relate to. So I started picking up all his films first. I started watching his. And to answer, there was one question. And then I think I started following Tom Hanks a lot.
Mm.
It
As an
was
actor.
more like, because I did not think I would be a director. I was always fascinated about acting.
Right.
Um, when I got into theater as well, I wanted to act.
Right.
So then I ended up watching. Someone told me about a scene in Philadelphia,
Mm.
Tom Hanks film, where there is an opera scene,
Mm.
and that he's brilliant in the way he's done that opera
Right.
scene.
Right.
So I was very curious to see what that and why this person was talking about that scene. So once when it was being aired on HBO, I went to a friend's house because they had a nice big television with sound system and all that. So I stayed through the film just to see what that opera scene was.
Mm.
And then I figured this man is a genius the way he performs. And then I started watching every film of his, right from You Got Mail to
Right.
all the rom-coms that he's
How,
done, Sleepless in Seattle.
how many times have you watched Forrest Gump till now?
Oh, that's countless. Like even now when I go to Netflix and
Right.
sometimes it ends up showing the thumbnail, and there are like 30 new films that are next to that thumbnail, and I
Hmm.
yet would go and click on Forrest Gump and watch some parts of it again and again.
And
So,
these
and the
these these two favorites, right? Tom Hanks Spielberg collaboration must have been your favorite, right? Like
yeah, when
they,
I Catch Me If You Can, and
mm,
that was like when that came out. I think I saw that film in the theater. In fact,
mm.
Catch Me If You Can. So because it's like both these
Yeah.
legends that I really was following coming together.
Even the
So
recent one
yeah,
was nice, right? The thing about the Bridge of Spice.
yeah, that one, and also they made one more. What
Private Ryan, of
Telegraph?
course. Private Ryan, of course.
Private Ryan. Yeah, that all that I saw a bit
Yeah, yeah.
later, but
Mm-mm.
recently. So now any Spielberg film, any Tom Hanks film,
Now it's about the
I
Post, I guess. It's about the
the
Washington
Post.
Post.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Post. Yes, the Post. Yeah. So now I don't miss them.
But
I
have
go
you watched
watch.
this old Spielberg movie called The Duel? It's a television movie
Yeah,
that
of
he had
course,
made.
of
Oh
course.
yeah, that is like
That was
Jaws and
brilliant. I
that
mean,
was Jaws and truck. Basically, instead of shark,
so
it's a truck.
now when you say Jaws, what is very interesting to know is that my dad had shown me Jaws when I was a child. So
Okay,
I remember watching Jaws on a black and white TV, I think, with
pretty
those
violent for a
VCRs.
child though. But yeah, okay.
But I mean, at that point, nobody, like my dad has shown me Evil Dead and all that. So I'm sure. So this
Nice.
is, I'm saying when I was 7 or 8 years old,
Hmm.
and there used to be this trend of renting out a VCR, right?
Right.
You get a VCR and then you rent it for 48 hours, but you want to do complete
Yeah.
paisa vasool, so you watch movies back to back. And so I remember watching Jaws. At that point, I remember only being scared,
Hmm.
but much later when I saw Duel and all that, I thought Duel is like beyond any of his films made later.
Yeah.
It's like, so the symbol, I mean, that I think at that point I didn't know how symbolic it was,
Hmm.
and how every little shot had some meaning. And yeah, so that's how. But later, world cinema came to me when I started going to film festivals.
Hmm.
When I decided that okay, from theater I got to make a shift to movies, because
Hmm.
I started enjoying the idea of telling my stories
Hmm.
using film as a medium. So I started trying making short films, and then I tried going to these film festivals and attending the workshops, and that's when they
Right.
started talking about Kurosawa's films or Mizoguchi's films or Wong Kar-wai. And I'm like, who are all these people? What are these names? And there's so many other names. And then they would place a film, and something, it's not those things that grab you immediately.
Hmm.
And then there was a workshop that I attended in 2007, I think, or 2006, where this guy was someone who's probably done his PhD on that Kurosawa film. Shit, which is that most popular film that everyone talks about?
Rashomon
The
or
non
Seven Samurai?
Rashomon.
Rashomon.
No, no, Rashomon.
Rashomon.
Like he had so much. He was the head of the department of some film school in another country, and he took a 3 hour session on one sequence of Rashomon. And I was,
Wow.
wow, like I was shocked that there are this very popular sequence in Rashomon where the hunter walks at
Yes.
the 10th minute of the film or something,
Hmm.
and apparently there are 21 cuts of him walking. And then he had something to tell about each cut of those things.
Wow.
And very very, it's like I didn't know that films could be seen this way,
Hmm.
and films, that you could actually understand these things. And then he told me about this. I didn't know about Stanley Kubrick. I was not, fast, like, no, he was not in that popular genre, right?
Yeah.
So Spielberg was
He
much
won't
into
he
popular
won't appear
genre,
in the
while
Google.
yeah. So Stanley Kubrick, I think, happened to me when, in the same workshop, when this professor told us that the greatest edit cut,
Hmm.
according to him, ever made is when the ape throws the bone,
The bone.
and the next cut is the spaceship.
Spaceship.
And yeah, so for him, and the way with so much passion that he spoke, again, it's been 16 years since went through that session,
Hmm.
but I remember his face. I remember with how smitten he was by these things. And so for him, and when he said that Kubrick took, before even man was, man had,
Right.
the
Right.
evolution had begun.
Right.
He takes that one moment and then he cuts into the future where he's showing you the spaceship
Hmm.
and telling us that everything in between was irrelevant, and so I really like the interpretation of that one edit,
Hmm.
where Kubrick in his film decided that everything between was not important. And things like these kind of little lines which I heard from people, which I've heard from in 2004, I think 4 or 5. I was in Mumbai and I
Hmm.
was trying to do theater there, and there was Prithvi Theatre Festival, and there were again many works. So I never had money to go to a film school, but whenever there were
Right.
these workshops or when there were forum talks or anything, I would go sit and listen to them.
Right.
And I remember Makran Deshpande and Anurag Kashyap doing a session,
Hmm.
and they had a very candid, and that was the time when Black Friday also hadn't released. So
Yeah.
Anurag Kashyap was,
It
I
was
didn't
banned.
even know who Anurag Kashyap was.
Yes.
So I knew Makran Deshpande because I'd seen him on some television, and I
Hmm.
and I'd always Makran Deshpande. I don't know if you know the guy
No.
who is in Swadesh.
Okay.
Yu hi chala chala,
Yes.
the
Okay. Got you. Got you.
so
Got you.
he's a big, yeah, so he's a theater guy, and
Okay.
he's very popular. He's pretty popular there in Mumbai as well.
Hmm.
So I had followed his work. I think I had somehow liked him in some of the television stuff that I had seen. So the familiarity of an actor
Hmm.
kind of draws you. And then when I'm sitting there in the session, they said Anurag Kashyap is coming. I'm like, who is Anurag Kashyap? In 2004, how would you? Then they said so Anurag was as he is now, and they both sat down and they would talk about how they did theater or films, and it was all fascinating at that point. I started understanding that movies is just not about entertaining you. I mean,
Hmm.
otherwise, what was it? We all knew Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. We all
Right.
knew Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
It for us
Those kind of
for us it was
movies.
escapism back then.
Yeah, so we thought that's all
Hmm.
movies were supposed to be, or there were
Right.
a lot of Telugu and Kannada films that I had seen at least.
Right.
And so looking at these guys talk, I figured there's a world that I haven't
Hmm.
been exposed to, I haven't even explored. And I remember then going to National Market.
Hmm.
The National Market is basically a place in Bangalore, which used to be there, now it's not there, where
Okay.
you get these pirated DVDs.
Huh.
So I anyway had a PC with me.
Right.
So I went to that shop and I said, okay, give me 30 movies and these guys knew world cinema better than any of us, the guys who
Okay.
sell it.
Okay.
Yeah, so they would actually
Hey,
suggest
Quentin
some
Quentin
Italian film.
Quentin Tarantino was a video store a
Yeah, yeah,
salesman, right?
exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I did that, and then there was this video store near my house.
Right.
So I went to him, and he used to give out movies at 25 or $30 a day
Yeah,
for a
that was the
day's
cost.
rental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the
So I
cost.
said, listen, I'll take a movie every day. You have to reduce it. So I cracked a deal with him that every day I'll take one movie. And then I watched a lot of films, all kinds. Like I saw Nicolas Cage films.
Hmm.
Somehow I kind of for a brief moment was a big fan of Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
So I
National.
like some of the stories he's done. Snake Eyes, right? 8
Oh,
mm, Snake Eyes, and
I haven't seen the old
uh,
ones.
yeah. So so I would just go to that shop and I would say, now give me some random film.
Right.
So I ended up picking some really junk movies as well as some great films too.
Hmm. Hmm.
So during that time between 2004 till about 2007, when
Hmm.
I actually started participating in films, I really saw a lot of films. It's like
Wow.
there used to be a time when I would just wake up and I had nothing to do. I would just wake up 10 o'clock, finish breakfast, and then just lock yourself in the room and watch. I had a 14-inch monitor, I think, and then just play some CD and watch it. Yeah.
I remember your Facebook post once long back that you wrote that you how much you wish you had a good screen back then,
Yeah.
but now I have every single possible
Yeah,
home
yeah.
theater at my home, but I don't watch much as I used to back then.
The same building where I grew up, now
Right.
I've made it into a nice 5.1 surround sound with a big
Mm,
screen HD projector,
mm.
but I hardly get 2 hours to sit there and watch anything. It's I'm constantly either in another city shooting, and that time when I used to have these terrible Mercury speakers, if you all remember those
Yeah.
little vertical
Right.
speakers, that's where I saw most of the films on.
Right. For me, it was my little Toshiba laptop with Pentium processor,
Yeah.
if some kids remember that. There was a phase where really Nolan fascinated you. Is that a fair thing to say, or is that an overstatement? Do you take back your words, what you said back then?
That I was fascinated by Nolan.
Yes.
So Nolan is a very interesting thing how it happened. Remember I told the 30 movies
Yeah.
that I got from a pirated store,
Right.
and in one of those 30 DVDs was Following. Okay, Nolan's
Okay.
first feature. Now,
Okay.
the picture of Following never, I didn't know about Nolan.
Okay.
I hadn't known about Memento. I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't known any of things at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think he got popular with after Batman, though he was
Mm.
known to a very niche
Yes.
circle. I think the first Batman got him more into the popular
Correct.
genre thing.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, so I didn't know about Insomnia or
Mm.
Memento. And then, so I had 30 odd DVDs, and I started watching everything that I had some name to it,
Mm.
so there
Mm.
was, but Following kept showing up. I never picked it because it felt like it was on some RT movie and I was going to be bored of it.
Right.
I think some afternoon when I was in Mumbai, I had kind of run out of all the films,
Mm.
and I thought, okay, let's just. And it also had some reviews that this is like a path breaking and blah
Right.
blah blah. So then I played Following. Then it changed everything for me because I
Okay.
think till date, Following is for me his best film.
Mm.
Something that he made, forget the process. I didn't even know the process in which he made. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was made over a year. He used to do some job, and then
Mm.
he used to shoot it on the weekends in his
His
house, his
mom, his
parents'
mom,
house.
yeah, his mom used to make
Yeah,
sandwiches for the crew and whatever. I've
yeah.
read those
So
stories. Yeah.
all that. So I've read everything about Following later, but the
Mm.
way he edited the film, the way uh, there is no linear structure to it.
Mm.
I mean, it was one of the biggest lessons. And after watching Following, I think I spent days reading up about the movie, about him, and
Right.
then I got to know that he's made Memento, and that's when I got Memento somehow and managed to watch it,
Mm.
and that blew my mind again. And then Insomnia, only to realize later that sometime around 2006, I guess, that's when that the Batman that I had seen was
Yeah.
made by him. I didn't know that.
Okay.
I never connected Batman
But you
to
liked
this
it.
guy. I mean, I had liked Batman, but I never,
Mm.
followed who the director was and
Right.
all
Right.
that.
Right.
Then I'm
Right.
like, shit, this is the guy who went and made Batman.
Right.
And Batman, I think it was also those, like the superhero films had really stopped. With Batman,
Yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of opened up again. It
Yeah.
was for a long time they had stopped. When I saw Batman, I think I saw it like it. I think I would appreciate it a lot more now.
Mm.
For me, it was very new at that time. That
Mm.
kind of watching it on the bigger screen. I had a girlfriend, so I took her just because, hey, let's just see a interesting film. And Batman,
Okay.
the trailer had looked it. I
Okay.
didn't see it for, but I think if I watch it now, it'll be much better experience.
Right.
Anyway, so Nolan was from that,
Mm.
and Batman happened, and then came The Dark Knight. Of course, by then you
First day,
had
first
started.
show.
I mean,
Did you
huh?
go? First day, first show.
Dark Knight was not first day for sure. It was gold class,
Oh,
where the tickets were $1,200, and
I don't think there was
and
IMAX back then, right, in Bangalore?
no, no, not
Mm. Mm.
there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So then I saw Dark Knight, and by then I think we were also more on internet. By
Mm.
the time Dark, so we would start reading. Social media had come in,
Right.
so we would start hearing about the Joker and
Mm.
and all that. But yeah, so people like Inception was a great view, but I would not. still think, like, I feel since Batman,
Mm,
Prestige was great.
mm.
I think, still think after with Batman series, and then he used to alternatively do one film
Yes.
which was not Batman, right?
Batman.
There was
Yes. Yes.
Prestige,
Yes.
there was Inception.
Inception. Yes.
I I somewhere felt that after Prestige, the vision started only becoming bigger.
Mm,
Like his vision, his
mm.
storytelling became bigger and bigger. But I started watching cinema in a different way, that I kept wanting to go back to a following.
Okay.
I wanted to go back to a Memento.
Mm,
For me, the big canvas was okay, but it was not as personal as a Memento or a following was.
right.
Like if today somebody says, you could put your name to one of his films, I would
Mm,
still pick following and
mm,
not Tenet, or I would not pick
right.
any of the recent ones. If I could steal one of his film as mine, it would be following.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And all these couple of filmmakers that you spoke, which one of these filmmakers do you usually like before shooting a movie? Do you go back and visit a film before start shooting? Do you go back to a filmography? Do you go back to a director before shooting a film?
Not off late. Not
Hmm.
off late. I mean, I think just got busy with so much of, when you have a child and you're like, there's
Mm,
so many things just take priority after a point. But when I was by myself, I would end up watching. I watched following many times just
right.
to get that sort of an instinct to edit that
Mm,
way,
mm,
to be able to not be in a box that a scene has to
mm,
be
mm, mm,
constructed and the next scene has to follow,
mm.
because in following he just jumps anywhere and comes back
Right.
and you still. So for me that was an impact that I had. But I think I also watched David Fincher a lot.
Right.
I caught
Talk
up
about
with him
that.
with Fight.
Mm,
Fight Club was something that was a big favorite.
mm,
uh, I mean, I really loved the I mean, not just the filmmaking aspect of it, but the way the story is, the way the character Tyler Durden was. I could relate to everything that he was saying,
right.
or the film as a philosophically tries to teach you something. So
Right.
Fight Club was a huge impact, and then Seven. So once I had seen these two films, I would watch every David Fincher film after a point. So if it's
Yeah.
there,
And
um,
do you know this Telugu movie called Gharshana by any chance?
Gharshana.
Gharshana by Venkatesh. They had a scene where the character finds a head in a box. I just thought I would refer that, but I don't know
I
if.
haven't seen the film, but I
Mm,
know of the title. I know
mm,
that
mm,
there
mm, mm,
was a
mm, mm,
film
mm.
like that. Yeah.
Right. So it's a first day first show for you when a David Fincher film comes out. Like, what did you feel about, for example, something like Gone Girl, something like Social Network? How do you feel about that?
Social Network was fascinating. I really
Mm,
loved it.
mm,
Gone Girl was good. I saw Mank on the laptop on Netflix.
mm.
Now, Mank, I somehow did not connect as much
Right.
as I connected to his earlier films. Also, what happens is when you're shooting and then you make time to watch something, you're in a different
Mm.
mind space.
Right.
So
Right.
I want to give Mank another viewing, maybe again when I go back.
Now, explain one of the other filmmakers that you had mentioned was David Lynch, right? So sell his filmography to a person like me, because I've watched and I never understood. And if there is someone listening to this who wants to watch it, how would you sell his films to someone like that? Like, what
David
is he?
Lynch?
Yeah, what is he about? What are his movies about?
Oh
What
no. I mean, I've seen, I think, two films because everybody used to talk about him so much.
Mulholland Drive or something?
Yeah, that's
That?
one.
Hmm.
Mulholland Drive is one. And then there is something with Blue. I
Right.
forgot. Blue Velvet. I think Blue Velvet
Something like
is
that. Yeah.
correct. It was, and I saw them at a very early stage of my
Hmm.
film journey.
Hmm.
So they were too abstract. They were very abstract for me at that point, and but it see, that's what I'm saying. Some of these movies, when you're just sitting and watching, maybe it's abstract at that point. You're not
Right.
able to understand everything clearly,
Right.
but there's so much magic that, again, it's been 18 years or 16 years since I
Hmm.
saw those films, but I have memories of certain shots.
Hmm.
Like as I'm talking to you, I know some shots that come to my mind.
Right.
I think that's what is proper master filmmaking.
Hmm.
But we would have seen so many popular genre films, right? We would have seen Avengers, you would have seen King Kongs, and but you will not really remember frames the way
Exactly.
you remember some of these. These things go sit in your subconscious.
Mm.
I think that's where the skill comes. And I think David Lynch, I mean, I would probably now, I have been trying to find that time where I want to now visit all these films at this mind space, where I
Mm.
can decode them in a better way or understand them in a better way. So let's
Right.
hope. Yeah.
You had this culture of following the global directors. Who was your first Indian director that really captured your imagination, where you felt like you have to follow and check out his entire filmography in a sense? Because back in the day, we didn't really were going to movies for the directors as much as we do now, for example. So what was
For
what
me, it was Anurag Kashyap
right?
as an Indian filmmaker that made such an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Before him, I don't think I was. I mean, we all knew of Karan Johar. I think as a
Mm-hmm.
director, he made that buzz, created that
Mm-hmm.
buzz.
For himself, yeah.
For I'm talking about the era when I started absorbing movies on my own. Otherwise, there
Right.
were parents who would always say that, hey, it's made by so and so person,
Mm-mm-mm.
so we should try it. And like in Canada, there was Puttanna, whose films my parents would talk about. Again,
Mm.
it was more actor driven as well, which is,
Mm-hmm.
if there is. But I think on my own, there was Anurag Kashyap worked for me for I saw Black Friday because in the theaters, and it really blew
Wow.
my mind when I saw Black Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wow, like how did he even construct this story? And it
Right.
because by then I started shooting some short films,
Mm-mm.
and then I was also reading that it was quite a struggle for him to make that film,
Yeah.
and then the performances were so good, and I was like how because I mean I'm trying to shoot a 3-4 minute film and I'm struggling, and he had similar issues but he made Black Friday. And so for me he was one filmmaker whose films I would wait for and watch.
It's just beautiful to watch the Scorsese Tarantino influence in him, right? It's just beautiful to watch how
Mhm.
cinema kind of transcends, like that transcends into Anurag's movies. Like for example, you were talking about Rashomon, and we can maybe establish a minute connection between Ulidavaru Kadante Rakshishetti's
Kandante,
movie.
Ulidavara Kandante.
Kandante. A bit of a slice of Pulp Fiction, a slice of Rashomon in that, and your Lucia, for
Mhm.
example, a slice of Memento in a sense, kind of Nolan stylist, parallel editing, like of the parallel storylines, right? It transcends language, isn't it? Cinema.
Mhm. Yeah, and so the thing is, we never tried to mimic these films.
No, absolutely
Yeah.
not.
So for us, for me, it was more like you have watched all these films, you have learned storytelling watching these films, and so it becomes like a second nature. Nobody
Yes.
like when you cut to a flashback, you don't say that, oh, there is another film where flashback was used, because it's a tool
Hmm.
of flashback. Then you look at parallel narratives, like Black Friday is a parallel narrative, and skip jump in time and point of views and everything.
Right.
And so there were many I would say there are all these films that create a sense of storytelling
Hmm.
in your mind and make you feel like when you're telling the story, you don't have to say it from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You can go from A to G and come back to B,
Right.
because when you show G and come back to B, there is a different way you absorb B,
Mm.
while instead of showing it as A and B. So this grammar kind of becomes your second nature.
Mm.
And so for me, I think the idea of telling complex screenplays came from David Fincher, Nolan, whereas wanting to emote them, wanting to make the characters emote and be real came from Spielberg, came from Anurag's earlier films, where they were raw and they were so close to real life
Right.
characters that we meet.
Right.
And so I think so you're picking up these tools of
Hmm.
storytelling,
Right.
and when you're trying to use those tools to tell your own films, they then become your voice.
Mm.
And without you knowing, like for example, a language, we pick up our diction from someone, we pick up
Right.
how we use certain words repetitively. You know, so some people say so many times, which they picked up from a
Yes.
friend who says it. So without you knowing, it's become your personality. So I
Right.
think our storytelling was not to mimic, but like I've seen Tarantino. For me, Reservoir Dogs is something that I saw
Mm.
again because everybody said Tarantino. So then I say,
Right.
okay, let's see this man's films. And Reservoir Dogs was the first one. So I went in the same order, in fact,
Okay.
and then Jackie Brown,
Yes.
and
Such
so
an underrated movie Jackie Brown is.
yeah, yeah. But like I said, it is at what time of your life you see it.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch it very, very early, where you don't, if you're not really exposed to that genre of film or that kind of filmmaking, I don't know if you would appreciate Jackie Brown.
Right.
But so for me, Reservoir Dogs worked better than Jackie Brown when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And much later, when I saw Jackie Brown, then it had a different impact
Hmm.
because I was not really like I had seen Raging Bull. I had
Hmm.
started watching Scorsese films and like Casino, and then it hit me that how Anurag is so much of and has borrowed from these
Yes.
films, the
Yes.
narratives and the storytelling. Um, for me, Marty happened much later. It's
Uh-huh.
like I was done with Spielberg, I was done with Nolan, I was done with this one. Of course, I had seen Raging Bull and Taxi Driver; those two I had seen, but Casino and Goodfellas, all that happened a little slowly. And
Right.
then I realized that this man is in another level altogether.
Right.
So
In the modern day films, like how many films do you watch these days? Like for example, do you think the cinema is like getting better? Do you belong to one of those schools who are like, back in the day cinema was good, now the cinema it's not really as good as back in the day? Do you have a chance to take a look at the current day cinema of 2010s? What captured your mind? Like for example, some Wes Anderson or Jordan Peele. What are the modern day directors that fascinate you?
yeah, so I
Indi-
guess as
Indian,
you
Indian
tend
or abroad?
to
Yeah.
no, now as you start making more films, or now that you part of this game,
Hmm.
I used to watch as an audience before,
Mm-hmm.
where you would then have this, oh, Tarantino's style is better than Nolan or Spielberg's. You had these thoughts. Now I've come to a stage where I've stopped analyzing in that way. I think I've become more and more audience. So I've gone to another zone where
Okay.
I do not want to anymore look at whose style is it. I
Hmm.
don't want to look at it as technically at all. So
Mm-hmm.
now I actually randomly start picking films.
Hmm.
Now I'm like, okay, if there is, for example, like if there is Mank, then I just
Hmm.
want to watch Mank
Hmm.
without knowing it's David Fincher's
Hmm.
film. And I've come to this, like, maybe that's what I want my audience to do it too. I don't
Right.
want them to see it as this guy had done something before, and
Mm-hmm.
hence I've started understanding how, for a filmmaker or for any artist, as he grows
Right.
older and with experiences of his own life, his voice changes, his beliefs changes, his
Hmm.
beliefs shift from what it was to something else, and that starts reflecting in his work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is actually not, it's not justice to then put their earlier films and then watch today's film and then have comparisons.
Right.
So for me, it is more like I go to Tenet and I
Hmm.
just watch and say, did it work for me or not? I'm not going to come back and want to say, oh no, Dark Knight was better or Inception was better. I think I'm sure it's 12 years for him when he made Inception or this
Right.
one. There is something that changes, something becomes more important for him. That is what he's trying to portray. But
Yeah.
did Tenet work for me or not? Or it's more personal. So I also started watching it that way.
Hmm.
So so I'm not really now so keen on following, okay, this person and what was his earlier work. It's
Right.
more like this film worked for me, so let me then see how what he tried saying in something else. So it's that I'm not trying to now
Right.
analyze a form.
And did you have this habit of, back in the day whenever Oscar awards happened, right? Okay, let's watch the nominations, let's watch the winners. Did you have one of those habits by any
Yeah,
chance back then?
yeah. I there was in around 2007 when I was doing in that transition of trying to be an AD somewhere, trying to get into films.
Hmm.
Again, so I had no other day job otherwise. So
Mm-hmm.
that's there was a phase when all these Oscar nominated films would come to the theaters, and
Hmm.
I did go and catch them. Like Little Miss Sunshine, I s- I saw that it was nominated for Best Original Screenplay,
Right.
and I said, okay, then let me go see it. Something that I hadn't done before, where you follow up these lists and then just want to go see it in the theater to see how it looks. Why is it
Right.
nominated? What? And then so I ended up catching some of good films that way.
My final question too is, now I believe you have a kid, and I'm not sure if you wanted to get into movies and so on, right? But if you really had to make a syllabus book of where to start, what would your index be, right? Is the starting point for you, is it Spielberg, and then you go here? What would be your index of a syllabus book, for example?
Oh no, I'm already doing this experiment on my daughter.
Okay.
So like in this pandemic, I think she easily saw 150 movies.
Whoa.
Okay, she's only 7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and she's seen Bicycle Thief, she's seen a Disney movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then she watches some French film, and now she's kind of become pretty good at reading subtitles as well. And we just made it sort of a, I would show her King Kong one day, and then the next day she would watch What's Eating Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
So for her, she saw Castaway,
Right.
and at 7, and she could connect to everything. She could connect to being alone, she could connect to being abandoned. And then when I see her meeting her friends and they're discussing Avengers or they're
Mm.
discussing Transformers, and she'll be like, "You guys should watch Castaway." So I was like, "Wow," because I saw Castaway when I was like 20, that
Right.
age, and so I would say that there is no rule of which director to follow.
Yeah.
And today things are available in their best format, like you have 2K surround sound format available on Netflix and Prime and all that. So I'd say that instead of showing your children the same popular genre films which
Mm-hmm.
everybody is talking about, that really niche film, sensitively made film, is right there next to it. There will be another thumbnail, and I would say that just click on it, because I can see how for my daughter it's helping her open up her mind, because
It's.
she sees characters from everywhere.
Mm.
So she's already started understanding what is gray. There is no more good and bad, but there is something in between. And I think that is, so there are many niche films. When I say niche, I would say where a director has tried to say something in a sensitive manner,
Mm-hmm.
where he's not making judgments about a
Right.
character's behavior or actions, but he's trying to say that this is what this character did,
Mm.
and this is how the other character responded to it. And they say it in a very artistic manner, and kids can grab it, and they can use that conflict. And they, like my daughter now, we sometimes in a day she at least uses 3 or 4 film as references to real life. So if we say something, she's like, yeah, this is like Unbroken, yeah, this is like that movie. and it
You're
and
acting like that
I
character in that movie, something like that.
Yeah, and I really liked how she could sympathize. Like Jojo
Mm.
Rabbit, I took her to watch Jojo Rabbit in the big
Wow.
screen, and she came back and she had no idea about Hitler, the whole Jews, Nazi fan, if nothing. But after the movie, she came back and I asked her, "So what do you feel?" And then she could say, in her own way, from what she picked from the movie, and she told Bicycle Thieves was one of the best examples.
Mm-hmm.
So we could end it with this great amazing thing that happened.
Right.
So I made her watch Bicycle Thief in my home theater,
Mm-hmm.
and it's black and white, and it's an
Right.
old
Right.
old. So for her it's like, she had gotten used to the black and white
Yeah.
movies. I told
Oh.
her that there were no cameras which were able to
Mm-mm.
record color and all that. So very quickly, so the magic of cinema. So I think Bicycle Thieves was 1950s or 40s.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah,
old it is, right?
yeah.
And here this 2013 born child is watching it, and she was hooked on from the beginning. She could understand poverty. She could understand them having no money. She could understand how the boy, was helping the father
Mm,
do the job. And what was brilliant was, so I think during pandemic, like the Zoom call, we have
right.
been like at home, everybody has been on Zoom call. So she's been watching it, and
Mm,
her school is happening on Zoom.
mm.
So there's this beautiful scene where there is a counter in Bicycle Thieves.
Yes,
There's one
yes,
guy sitting,
yes,
and they come to sell blankets
yes,
to get some money,
yes.
right? So there's this counter with a hole, with a
Mm,
rectangular hole,
mm,
and these two are standing on the other side of the hole.
mm.
And my daughter said, so did they have Zoom call at that point? Because in her head, she thought that was a monitor screen. Yeah. She didn't realize, and I'm like, I paused it, and then I thought, wow, like, like how this new kid who's been seeing Zoom all this months interprets the same
Wow.
image as a Zoom call. Because and then you pause that frame and you see it's true. It's like this guy's suggestion shot, and the two look like they're in a box. And and then we had to like tell her no, because when the hand comes through, then she's like, oh, so it's like a hole in the wall.
It also reminds me of this animation movie called Megamind. I don't know if you have seen it. The villain looks at the window and he says, "What is this?" Apparently, the villain is an alien, right? Who he looks at a window and he says, "What is this transmission station with 24 boxes?" So he's like, "No, sir, that's a window." I mean, what a fantastic window of cinema is to the world, and to gain
Yeah.
new perspective to life. And great, so great. I love the fact that you're showing world cinema to the kids, and I hope one finder you find time to write a book on the list of cinema that you might want to show to your kids. That would be a nice idea, hobby project if you may take up. But thank you very much for your time, sir. I think that's a great note to
Thank
end this
you.
podcast. Ladies and gents, wait for Kudi Edamaite, especially Telugu people. We don't
Yeah.
have much science fiction content in Telugu apart from Aditya 369 and maybe Ega, but I don't see any science fiction content coming out of Telugu anytime soon except Kudi Edamaite. It will be out for OTT. Thank you again, sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody, for tuning in to this podcast. Till we see you next time with another episode. Bye, everyone.